Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a potentially record-breaking rare fall Arctic outbreak that will be occurring across the United States. Now, again, the title is aggressive because it's supposed to be aggressive. This cold air mass that is going to be penetrating into the United States from Canada is going to be record breaking. There are going to be many areas that are going to see records being shattered for early September in terms of the cold. There will also be a lot of precipitation with this system, potentially some severe storms. So I will begin by looking at the 2-meter temperature anomaly of the GFS model of the United States, and we will show you this cold outbreak that will be occurring across the United States and run it by day. And then I will go over the precipitation and storm side of this system, as that will also be something we'll have to definitely watch for. So notice that right now we do already have a cool area from that recent cool down we had across late August, across much of the eastern United States. Now, we are experiencing kind of a little transition zone here. Notice that there's a little bit of warm air sneaking in between these two cool air masses. We have the second cool air mass beginning to develop across the north here, very far north into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, while the second cool down is across the central United States with a little bit of warmth in between. Notice that the western United States is extremely warm during this time, especially southwestern Canada, a little bit of southeastern Canada as well. I'm more concerned about the west and the southwest because of the fire danger there. It will be extremely hot, and these anomalies you will see, they will only continue to grow as this warm air will be trapped between the ocean and this really cold air mass in the central United States. The southeastern Canada area and northeastern United States will get in on some of that cool down in a little bit. But at first, what we do see is Tuesday. So right now, this is what it looks like. We are beginning to develop that cool air across Canada. You can see the heat across southwestern Canada is also really ramping up. This may not look all that impressive. You may be like, this is record-breaking? Give me a break. Well, look as I play this into Wednesday during the day. Look what happens. Boom. We start erupting with colors that are pink and purple in terms of this key chart of this anomaly. So that would indicate Fahrenheit temperatures in terms of below average that are almost reaching 20 degrees to 30 degrees below average, right? As I put this forward into Wednesday night into Thursday, we see this continuing to expand, and it gets stronger. We see it gets stronger but also larger. Note that across southeastern Canada and the northeast, we see the exact opposite. As this cold front pushes everything aside, we see that heat kind of get trapped and really starts to intensify. Across the southwest of Canada and the northwestern United States, we see something very similar. We see that heat kind of trapped, and it continues to intensify. So not everywhere will be cool, but again, I am focusing and titling this video a massive cool down because that is the most distinguishing feature that is going on across the United States right now. Notice as I put this into Thursday overnight and into Friday, we see a second cold front moving, a reinforcing shot, and boom, look at those temperature colorations. This is now not only impacting the central and eastern United States, but also getting into Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. A little bit of cool air here from a separate monsoon activity and cloud cover, so not the cool down, but still cool. Notice the only areas now above average by Friday are the southeast and into portions of Canada, but notice that these colors are a lot less dark now, or a lot less bright, indicating the temperatures are cooling down across Canada as well at this time, so Friday. Across the northwest and southwestern Canada, unfortunately, you won't see that relief. As we get into Friday and Saturday, and really this upcoming whole week, it will stay warm, and those anomalies will be really warm. I will go into the actual Fahrenheit readings in just a little bit, but I first want to finish running through these anomalies. Notice that as I put this into now Saturday, this cool down, again, not only maintains its strength, but it spreads further and further east and south. So at this point, Nova Scotia, New England, you are in on that cool down. Quebec, right, the northeast. The only areas that aren't are, again, portions of the northwest, southwest, and the southeast. As I put this into Sunday, we see this cool down spreading further and further east and further south. So at this point, areas that were initially very cold are now beginning to slightly warm up, but areas that were very warm across the southeast and eastern United States and eastern Canada are beginning to cool down. It does seem at this point also there will be some relief for potentially the northwestern United States, but unfortunately for southwestern Canada, British Columbia, and Alberta, you will be the hardest hit with that heat, and it will be stubborn, and will take a long time for it to move out. Notice by Monday we still see that cool air lingering across the United States, but at this point it is really de-intensifying, and at this point it's mainly to do with cloud cover. Notice also some cool air potentially finally moving into the northwestern United States, which would help with some of that heat relief, but that heat moves eastward. So now let's take a look at the 2-meter temperature Fahrenheit reading. So not the anomaly where it shows above and below average temperatures, but the actual Fahrenheit reading. Notice that right now we are dealing with, again, slightly cooler temperatures already across the central United States into 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock during the day on Wednesday. Here's the time. By the way, anytime I am running through these maps, here is the time that the map is taking place and the day, in case I'm not mentioning the date. So again, you can see it's cooler, but there's still many areas in the 60s, 70s, maybe some even 50s across New England and Quebec and Nova Scotia. Nothing crazy, but we do see these greens here beginning to develop, and that is the beginning of that cool down. Notice as we get into Wednesday during the overnight and into the daytime hours, we see a distinct barrier between the warm and the cool, and also right here. So again, a strong system also having a very profound warm front and in a cold cool down, right? That cold front. Notice that the temperatures here across Quebec, further up north, are going to be very warm, in the 70s, which you may be like, that's not warm. For those areas, it is. That is very warm. It's going to be warmer than, areas almost 1,000 miles to the south in Illinois and Iowa, and also across the northwest here and southwest Canada. 80s, 90s, that is extremely, extremely hot for those folks. So, unfortunately, that will be the story for you. Notice on a day Thursday, we see, again, the cool down that is defined between these warmer colors and the cooler colors across the central United States, but also these potentially green and even slightly bluish colors here, indicating very, very cold temperatures for this time of the year, where, again, some of those anomalies below average could reach 30 degrees. Not 30 degrees below freezing, but 30 degrees cooler than what you would normally see. And again, this is where that storm is spinning up. I will show you in just a little bit that powerful cold front into Friday. It seems Friday during the day will be the coldest, and the night going into Friday across many of these areas, and especially the most expansive. You can see that many areas now are in the 60s, which is very, very cool for this time of the year. If this was winter, we'd be dealing with wind chill warnings and wind chill watches, as this would, that's that same level of intensity below average. Notice it is much warmer across central and northern British Columbia than it is across Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, which is crazy, which is why this cool down is going to be so interesting. Note that as we push this forward during the nights, again, the GFS really shows widespread 40s across a good northern third of the United States. This spreads further and further east as we go into Sunday. We see 40s, definitely some frost and freezes towards the mountainous areas there across the western Rockies. And yeah, we just see this air mass pushing further and further east. Again, it will slightly begin to weaken as it pushes eastward, but many areas, excluding maybe the extreme southeast, many areas east of the Rockies, if not most, will get in on this cool down for at least a few days. And then notice by Monday and Tuesday of next week, we see some heat returning. So now I want to briefly focus on the storm, because there's going to be a big storm accompanying this cool down for those that are just tuning in for the first video of my channel or just haven't been really in the loop. There is going to be a big system associated with this, and it's going to be dragging a cold front, which is why there's going to be so much cold air. But it's interesting because there's going to be one cold front followed by a reinforcing cold front, and I'll show you that in just a bit. And I'm showing you the GFS instead of the European because the GFS has by far handled this system better. There was a time where briefly I thought the European might be a little bit more accurate. The GFS, especially with that reinforcing second shot, which you'll see in just a second, did a lot better job. So notice the GFS begins developing this low pressure across southern Canada, drags a cold front with showers across South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan into the day tomorrow. Again, very cool temperatures behind us immediately. Some snow developing across Ontario. The GFS has maintained that. The European doesn't show that snow. I believe that the GFS is probably a little bit over aggressive with this snow, but I also believe that the European is under aggressive. So again, if you're under this blue and you're watching this video, get ready probably for some rain snow mix, which again might be a little early for this time of the year, but that's why I'm making these video to warn you guys. Notice that the cold front drags at this point into late Wednesday into early Thursday across a good portion of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan into southeastern Canada. At this point, the low pressure is continuing to drop, 994 millibars. It's being squeezed by a high pressure, which is really funneling all this cold air very far to the south with a lot of strength. That snow continuing across Ontario. And this is where things get interesting, because you may be like, okay, this is that system. It's pretty much over at this point, right? And that's not necessarily true. Look, by early Thursday morning, right? So this is 7 o'clock Thursday morning, Central Time. We have another pretty fierce little system beginning to develop across Alberta, or sorry, not Alberta, across Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So notice that as this drags further and further south, kind of being forced very quickly because of this lobe of cold pressure, that is a lobe of cold air that is essentially pressurizing this thing and making it squeal to the south of it, we see it develop into quite a strong area of rain and showers across Wisconsin, Minnesota. So more rain for these folks into late Thursday, early Friday. Notice that across the southwest, we will be also dealing with tropical moisture coming in from a potentially landfalling tropical depression, tropical storm, probably depression at this point. A lot of moisture, though, regardless, for northwestern Mexico and southwestern United States. You could see New Mexico, Arizona there getting in quite a bit of the activity. And essentially, going back to further up north with this system, this little wave of energy allows this cold air to not only, again, get a reinforcing shot, but go and stay in the same area for a longer period of time, which results in its cool down not lasting 2 or 3 days, but almost a week for some areas. And then notice that this thing completely drags a massive cold front, kind of combines with that tropical moisture, and you could see almost like an interesting pattern where we have this low pressure, really with a massive cold front that almost extends all the way to the west coast there. Now again, this isn't part of that cold front, it's more kind of here, but it almost looks as if it's the continuation of it because of all this dry, cool air from the north, not allowing any of this precipitation to form any further north, and you can just really see where that boundary is between above average temperatures and below average temperatures. As I put this forward, you can see that once this cool down kind of moves away, we start getting more moisture and precipitation into the central United States. By the way, during this whole time across the southeast, especially once this front gets there and kind of stalls out there, there will be a lot of precipitation across the south into the late part of the weekend and early next week. That is something definitely to watch for. Also notice precipitation moving into the northwest. That will be a little bit of a saver from these above average temperatures you'll be dealing with. Will be preventing potentially fire danger because it will keep things a little wetter. And then the pattern breaks and we turn it into a completely different fold. And at this point, the temperature anomalies you can see are already a little different. We don't have a massive cool down anymore. We have more warm air sneaking in, and that heat, at least the worst of it, has broken across the northwestern United States. I want to briefly touch on the severe weather side. It really won't be that impressive. Notice that today there is a threat for where that cold front is going to ignite some showers and storms across Minnesota and South Dakota. So tomorrow, notice that the only area of severe weather, it's going to be a slight, so a 2 out of 5. Definitely something you don't want to ignore. But the only area is going to be really across eastern Kansas and western Missouri. That includes cities like Wichita, Kansas City, and Topeka. The biggest threat with this will be mainly just wind and hail as this cold front drags through. Anywhere, though, across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, there's also a chance for just regular thunderstorms. That is basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.